there. All right. First method in data gathering is observation. Okay. From the theoretical background, observation allows us to understand or even build empathy, meaning we truly understand why people behave in a particular manner, right? We try to think from their perspective. Okay, so with observing, we don't really have a direct interaction with our participants, with the observant. Observant is the one that we observe. We just observe. With observe, we just see, okay, how they use, how they interact with their activity, and so on and so forth, right? So why we observe? This is a simple example. All right, this device has small buttons. This device is a device to help drivers, truck drivers in particular, to do their jobs, to do their activity as a truck drivers. All right. Surprisingly, in here, they said unsurprisingly, maybe it is surprising for the whoever designed the device in the first hand. Okay, the truck drivers often have big hands. That means big fingers, right? And therefore, small buttons were completely impractical. It is hard to navigate if the device is very small. And therefore, they end up redesign the feature with a larger touchscreen. Okay, and we can gather this information that the truck driver is actually having troubles by looking actually how many times the truck driver pressed the wrong button, or how long does it take for the truck driver to find the right button. Maybe they have to go closer to the device to see better. That's not good, because as a truck driver, they need to focus on the road instead on the gadget, right? So we could actually get this kind of information by looking at or observing our participants. Okay, next. As part of the observation, there's something called ethnography. Ethnography is some kind of in-depth or like fieldwork strategy where the observer or you as the designer try to live together with your target participants. So ethnography is actually an anthropology that part of anthropology, where to study the culture of a society. Okay, in this context, we try to live together so we know more about how they behave. In our example in here, we may end up trying to be a truck driver. How to be a truck driver? How does it feel, or to navigate this device that we design when we are a truck driver? Okay, maybe if it's just trying to do it in maybe 1 minute, 5 minutes, it's fine. Maybe then we need to try to be a truck driver who drive for hours, maybe 10 hours nonstop. Okay, and maybe by then we will have fatigue, we will get tired, and by then our requirement difference, because when we get tired, we tend to behave differently, right? Surely we don't want our device to give more fatigue to the driver. Okay, that is ethnography. In specific for digital ethnography, it's also known as cyber ethnography or virtual ethnography. This can be done by looking at digital footprints. Do you know what digital footprints? Anyone? Anyone heard of what digital footprint is? No? Come on.
Is it about the record that is left by the users? So
Yes. So just like what Lucky mentioned, whatever we do in this digital era is recorded. Okay? Put it this way. Even if you go to an ATM and you do activity, well, for sure, they will record your transaction. But other than that, they will record which menu you press. Each and one of them, including the sequence. Why they need that? Because by doing that, they can understand, all right, most of my clients is actually pressing this menu. Okay, is actually doing this kind of transaction. So instead of asking them to press so many menu to get into that particular menu, why don't I just put, let's say, favorite transactions? Okay, so therefore, these days, the ATM normally have like options for how many you want to withdraw immediately instead of asking to select, I want to withdraw, and then we specify a particular number. Okay, those are analyzed based on digital footprints, the previous user activities when using ATM. They analyze, they gather, okay, how to make user can do their transaction faster, how we can simplify this menu, okay, in the ATM so that people will be able to complete what they need to do faster. That's digital footprint. That's that record. So again, digital footprints is like recording whatever activity that we do in a digital device. Anything can be an ATM, can be our interaction in the internet, in social media. All of that is recorded. Trust me, each and every activity that you do in a digital device is recorded. Even when you play a game, it is recorded and analyzed. For example, a user often have problems in a particular section. They will understand how. They will be able to understand, analyze the expected time a user spend in a particular section. If users spend more time and it is consistent among many users, they will know, okay, it means users are having problems in this section. And therefore, they then can decide to understand what's the problem and how to fix it. Okay, so that's one very simple parameter to understand whether a user is having problem is by looking at how much time they spend to do a particular activity. If it's like consistently more or significantly more than what we expected, then really the user must have a problem that we need to solve. Okay, now continue. Digital ethnography focus on observing human behavior, how they interact and socialize with digital application. That's just like what I just explained just now. When observed, we should focus on activities and the artifacts as experienced by the observer. So in here, because we are observing, we should not teach them on how they use it. Because again, when they purchase our products, they never read the instruction. Okay? Just like when we bought a mobile phone, how many of you, after you bought a mobile phone, read the manual? They don't even provide the full manual now. They put it online because they know nobody's going to read it anyway. right? What does it mean? It means users should be able to operate our device even without reading the instruction. Okay, and that's difficult. And therefore, in observing, you should focus on looking at them and as experienced by the observer. We should not interfere. We should not say, no, don't do that. You should press this one. Okay, to do that, you should press this and that. No, you need, user need to figure that out by themselves. All right, and only then we can observe workarounds and hacks as performed by the observant. You will find funny things like this, for example. This is an error and workaround hacks. Okay, so practically this printer have specific requirements. All right, so it says here this printer does not accept US legal size docs. Apparently, many try to use US legal size doc and having problem, and without even them realizing that this does not accept US legal docs. Okay, and this is very interesting observation that might be considered to change the design of this product. All right, that observation. On the other hand, there is another method called interview. Interview is different with observation in a sense. With observation, as I mentioned before, it is one way. We simply observe. With interview, it's a two-way communication. Okay, it's a two-way communication, and with interview, we can probe. Do you know what probe is? Probe is asking further. So, for example, I may ask my daughter, how's your class? As usual, my daughter will say, good. Then I can probe. I can ask further. What do you mean by good? What did you do? Okay. What do you like? And so on and so forth. Right? That is probing. And that probing can only be done in an interview. Several tips and tricks in interview is that we should avoid closed question. What is closed question? Closed question is like multiple choice, A, B, C, D. Okay, if you want to do an interview, don't use closed questions, because closed question is best for a survey where we don't really interact with our user one by one. Jimmy, why not? Is it really bad to do closed question when we do interview? It's not bad in a sense it's wrong, no, but we are wasting our resource because to do interview is very difficult. What do you think is the most difficult part in doing interview? Anyone can guess? Can anyone guess what is the most difficult part in this method, interview?
In the right question?
Yeah, that's difficult, correct? You need to carefully think the right question, but that's not the hardest. Other?
Encourage the interviewee to answer the question.
Almost, but yes, you get the right keywords there. Getting the participant to answer, or in other words, getting people to participate. It's very hard. Imagine someone calls you and say, good morning, I want to have an interview with you. Can I have a little of your time, maybe 1 or 2 minutes for an interview? What would you say? Most likely we say, no thanks, right? That goes the same when you approach people in the mall and then, can I have some of your time to ask for an interview? We probably just wave our hand and say bye-bye. Sorry, no, right? It's very difficult. Trust me, it's very difficult. And therefore, in many cases, we offer some reward. Okay. When I did interview before, I offer $15 for 30 minutes of their time. And that is really hard. But because my target audience is students, students everywhere around the world have the same characteristics. They love money, right? Well, everyone loves money, but students love small money. $15 in Australia is not that big, but it's still difficult. All right. Having said that, don't waste to gather close question, because that's a waste of time. We can ask close question using other methods than interview. So our our participants is very precious. So use them well. Okay. Second point, that is the other other end of close question. We should also avoid long questions. Okay, don't put like a paragraph questions that is very difficult for participants to understand. Okay, that's tough times and difficult for participants to understand. If it's difficult for participants to understand, they may answer incorrectly. Okay, although there is no right or wrong questions in our interview questions, because we don't do examination in here. Okay, interviews is we want to know about the user, so there is no right or wrong. But if our question is too difficult to understand, they may give us answer that different from what we expected. Third one, avoid compound sentence. Okay, avoid compound sentence. For example, you want to interview the user of a mobile phone. Okay, and then we ask, do you like the layout, the screen layout, and the buttons structure, and how the buttons are organized? Okay, that is compound sentence. Why? Because it confuses people when I like the interface, the layout interface, but I don't like the buttons. What should I do? Okay, focus, split them into two. We have one question asking about what they think about the interface layout. The next question, what they think about the button organization. Okay, so that should be considered too. Okay, avoid compound sentences. Avoid jargon, or what is jargon? Istilah. Jargon is istilah. Or languages that are probably foreign or difficult for our interviewee, for our participant to understand. Okay, try to think that have you put out the sentence in the easiest possible way. All right, and also avoid leading questions to make assumptions. For example, why do you like? Okay, that is a leading question, because put it this way, in a restaurant you want to ask the customer response about the food in that restaurant. If we ask them, why do you like the noodle soup, for example, you will get a different response than if you ask things like this. What do you think about the noodle soup? What do you think about the noodle soup can often have more negative response. We can say, they can say, I don't like the soup because it's too salty, for example. On the other hand, when we have a leading question, we ask, why do you like? We already lead the participants, okay, to only express what they like. Oh, I like because it's very it's very big portions, so it make my tummy full. All right. Oh, I like it because it's cheap. Okay, so that is a very leading question. We lead people to do or to ask what they like. Okay, and then try to avoid unconscious biases such as gender stereotypes. Okay, we don't really have gender stereotypes here in Indonesia because here in Indonesia we don't really have terms that are gender specific. We don't really have terms like gender specific. For example, in English, when people say, "Hey guys," that actually a bit gender specific. Although these days, when we say guys, I refer not only to the male but also to the female. It is not really a gender specific term anymore. And in Indonesia, we don't really have that, right? We said like, "Hai teman-teman, halo semuanya," and so on. We don't really have a gender specific, which is a very what's called sensitive issue in the Western community these days. Okay, just avoid that one. Now, several types of interviews. Okay, there is one that's called unstructured. In unstructured, it's like we use a script, a set of questions, which is determined before the interview. Okay, we prepare that list of questions. This is rich. This is details. Sorry, that is unstructured. Sorry, that is structured. That's the second one. So structured is using scripts. Okay, so I'm starting from the second one. It's often like questionnaires. It is replicable, but may not be as rich as the unstructured. What does it mean by replicable? It means I can have many interviewers. So for example, I prepare the script and then I can ask each of you guys to do the interview for me. Okay, so that is called replicable because I may end up having the same set of answers, even though the interviewers are different. That is called replicable. Okay, that is the positive of structures. However, may lack of richness. We may not have what I mentioned before about probing or questions, new questions that may come after or following a particular response. Okay, let's say the user expressed something new that is interesting. With structured interview, we may not be able to get that. We may not be able to ask a new questions based on the user response. Okay. On the other hand, we have unstructured interview. Unstructured interview is not using a script. So I simply do conversation, asking questions, and then get responses depends on how the interview goes. This is rich. I can go in whatever direction based on the interview. However, this is very difficult in a sense. It is only recommended for an expert interviewer. I would not do this myself because if I have too much flexibility, I may end up having a different set of questions among different participants. And when we have a different set of questions, we cannot really compare them. Okay, it's very hard. The in between, there is this called semi-structured. Semi-structured is guided by a script, but we still allowed to explore or probe, as I mentioned before, based on the user response. Okay, so the semi-structured interview allows us to like still have some flexibility in our interview. Okay, and the last one is called focus group. Okay, focus group is a group interview. Basically, that's it. Okay, it can be unstructured, it can be structured, it can be semi-structured. With focus group, the difference is the number of people that we interview at the same time. And in focus group, the participant can interact among them, and we can record that interactions for our response to. Okay, so this is the types of interviews. Now, there's also questionnaires. Questionnaires is when we don't really have like a direct interaction between the participant and the researcher in this matter. Okay, the question can be closed or open. As we know, if we are using Google Form, if we are filling Google Form, some can be closed. You still remember what is closed and open? Anyone? Anyone knows what is closed? Yes, Catherine?
Close like multiple choice and
Yes.
open like an essay, like writing a paragraph.
Correct. Good. Okay. Good. Thank you. So please let me know if there's a jargon in here that you don't understand. All right. Now, closed questions are easier to analyze. Sure. Okay. And it can be administered to a large population. Administers mean you can distribute this one and ask many students to, for example, not many participants, for example, students to fill in the questionnaire. Okay. Imagine if instead of doing questionnaire and I want to know something about Upaya students, for example, the active students is about 10,000. I don't really want to do interview, right, to each one of them. It will take a lot of time and money, if that even possible. Now, we can distribute this one these days using email, or we can use websites such as Google Form and so on. All right. Now, sampling can be a problem when the size of population is unknown, as in common online evaluation. Well, actually, sampling is a problem for any questionnaires or even interviews. What is sampling? Can anyone know what I mean in this sentence? What is sampling?
Isn't it that so I'm using some part of the population to be used, so?
Correct. We cannot really gather information from all of our users. Okay, for all of our users. For example, we are about to launch a new mobile phone. Okay, and we want to know their preference on, let's say, colors. Okay, in what colors should I launch this mobile phone? Should I launch in black and white, or red, or blue, or what? Okay, now in here, who should I ask? Edward, who should I ask about what colors is your favorite or your most probable mobile phone should be? Edward, you there? Who should I ask? Who should be my target population? Edward is not there. Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Yes, same. What do you reckon? To whom should we ask that kind of question?
Can you repeat the question, sir?
I'm about to launch a mobile phone device. Okay.
Okay.
And I want to know what is the best colors for a mobile phone?
The best color is for the mobile phone is matte black.
No. I'm
Huh?
not asking you.
Oh,
He's
I'm
asking for the
asking
participant.
if I'm going to ask. Okay, I need to ask that one to our users, our target users. Okay, so I want to do a questionnaire. I want to ask user preference on color. To whom should I ask that question?
uh, to the gadget lovers or maybe gadget reviewers.
Okay, there are two things, gadget lovers and gadget reviewers. We will talk about that one later. That's a very good point. But the population for that is potential users, people who use the mobile phone. Okay, we're not going to include, for example, people or a toddler. Okay, people with age less than 5 years old. There's no point asking them, right? The population, for example, is people, for example, if our target user is Indonesia, people in Indonesia with, let's say, age between 17 to 50 and income is this much and so on. For example, we are about to sell a prestigious, expensive mobile phone. So we don't want to ask people with minimum salary. We want to ask people with a lot of income. Okay, that is our population. Let's say then, based on our population, based on our definition, we define that our population should be people aged between 17 to 50 with income bigger than, let's say, 50 million rupiah per month. That's sampling. That's our population. We cannot ask all people that fall into that category, right? It is not possible. And therefore, we can only sample a few of them, get a few of them to fill in our questionnaires. That is sampling. Okay. Now, in here it is said can be a problem when the size of population is unknown. Like I put in example, it is very hard to know how much is people with age 17 to 50 with income bigger than 50 million rupiah per month. It's not easy. If we want to know only people with age between 17 and 50, that's quite easy or easier. We can just the Bureau of Statistics, and they should have that information. Okay, even in Google, they should know the number of population in a particular country in between age. Okay. Now, type of questions. In questionnaires, as I mentioned, they can be closed and there can be open. But in here, we focus on type of question for closed questions. It can be yes or no. It can be checkbox where people can check more than one option. Okay, like this one shown in here. Which are your favorite fruits? People can tick more than one. Rating scales, we will talk about that one later on. Semantic scales and so on. So Likert scales is this one. It's like the rating. Very important, important, so, less important, not important. Okay, so this is Likert scale. So it's like increasing in some fashion. Okay, so this is increasing from very important, sorry, not increasing, this is decreasing. And this is also a very important, what's called, questionnaire design that you need to consider. When you put the most positive on the left, make sure you consistently doing that. So in here, it's very important is positive, right? Don't mix up. Sometimes you put the positive on the left and the negative on the right. That will confuse your participants. Okay, this is Likert scale. Okay, and this is differential scales, similar, but in here we don't really provide labels for each options. We simply think, okay, if this is clean and this is dirty, how do you describe these objects, for example? But again, can anyone tell me what is the difference with this statement, with this question? How would you describe Kmart, Walmart, Target on the following scale? Oh, sorry, this is actually correct. So in semantic differential scale, we can put this in each of these. So, okay, Kmart in here. If Kmart in here, then Walmart is here and Target in here. So basically, I rank them. I can use that one in this scale. Okay. Now, we can also use 357. Well, 357 is not basically 357. It's simply like almost like this, but with labeled like this. So instead of asking how many times you check social media in a day, instead of asking 1 to 10, we cluster. Okay, because sometimes we don't really know the exact times. For example, if in here I put how often you check social media a day, and then I put options 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until 50. Okay, that is difficult because we don't really count how many times I check social media a day. We only have a rough estimate of how often we check social media in a day, and therefore we only do this. And how we should determine these options? Well, we can see from here, these options, if it's less than 5 times, we may consider like very not frequent. Okay, 5 to 10 times average, more than times frequent. Okay, this includes if I check social media once every 2 days. It means it's less than 5 times in a day, right? So that is also grouped as not frequent in here. So that's what 357 means. Basically, we group the possible responses instead of having too many options that confuse people, and we don't really need in that details anyway. Okay, just like asking age group. So are you less than 17? Are you 18 to 25, for example, or 26 to 35, and so on and so forth. So we basically group the possible options. This is Likert cell that's somewhat similar to 357. Basically, we group the possible options in here. This is another interface of doing the what's it called, Likert scale. Okay, so instead of this, we want to have this one. I don't really like this one because in this one you will have a lot of answers that are maybe the user is not really care. Okay, when you drag this one, will people care if it's here or slightly here? Even though in your data that will be different. Okay, so you will have a strange response with this. This is not a very good interface. Okay, that's questionnaires. Another method is called diary study. It's like asking our participants to record their activity over time. Okay, over time. So hang on. think this is a typo over there. So the keyword in here is over time. So we collect qualitative data about user behavior, activities, and every experiences over time. So we ask our users to fill in diary about how they behave, how they perform their activities, and so on. For example, it's like this. Okay, we just want to ask them to record whatever they do. Oh, okay, this week I play with my daughter and she play guitar. Or this weekend I go to a beach, and so on and so forth. We ask them to put a diary, and as like a diary, sometimes we have pictures, sometimes we also have descriptions. We will have the date and timestamp and so on. Okay, this is very rich information, but it's also very difficult to analyze. Now, this is what actually Shane mentioned before. We focus, we do, or we use participants that actually core extreme users. So experience sampling is not about the sampling. It's simply, not about the sampling, not about the method, It can be questionnaires, it can be interviewing, it can be other method, but with experience sampling, we focus on participants that have good experience. So in my example before, like Sen mentioned, it can be, for example, gadget reviewer or gadget mania, people who always buy gadget once a month, for example. There is people like that. There are people like that. Okay, so this is called extreme users. Users who are expert and experienced in the observed activity. Surely you want to get their feedback. Now, persona. Persona are fictional characters which you create upon your research in order to represent different types of users. In this context, persona is like characteristic of your intended users. Okay, it helps designer to get better insight of user need, experience, behavior, and goals. It also helps designer teams to have same vision about the user. In our context before, in my example, when I want to launch a mobile phone, we want to ask, okay, who do you want to sell this product to? Do you want to sell this product with target of senior people, senior rich people, for example? It may be different than if you ask, if you target a young generation. Okay, for example, my mom and dad have difficulties to operate gadgets with small buttons. They don't like it. Okay, they even confuse if I give them the latest mobile device. They prefer the old one with big buttons. Okay, it's not like they're going to use YouTube anyway. So they love the black and white color. It's easier for them because they can use it. And the latest generation, even for younger people, that's perfect. For them, it's useless because they can't use it. All right. So we need to know or create persona to our target participant so that everyone understand, okay, this device is targeting this particular people. All right. Now, this is an example of a persona. Okay, and even in here we can say, okay, these people is so pretty much socialized people, prefer freedom, more extrovert than introvert, and so on and so forth. Okay, and we have this gender, male, age, status, education, profession, and so on and so forth. This kind of thing helps people to know, okay, should I ask this guy then? because we are targeting senior people. By looking at the age, well, maybe not. Maybe we should look for other participants. Although this guy is an expert in mobile device, but he's not our target audience. He's not our target user. So let's find another participant, for example. That's number one. Let's go to number two, generating ideas. Okay, generating ideas. There are many ways. And one of the most popular one is brainstorming. Basically, this is just you meet with your team and just talk about anything. Okay, think about and try to come with ideas or solution without many restrictions. Think as wild as possible. Okay, so one example of this one, if you look at a fashion show like on TV and something somewhere else, or automotive show where they display prototypes, those are brainstorming. Sometimes the products produced or introduced there is, you will see like, who would want to wear that? Okay, how does it works? You will have like a car that is like so low that it almost hit the road. Okay, and they're like, okay, how can we do that? Like use that car, especially here in Indonesia where there are many bumps and holes. That's not going to work. Okay, and for a clothes in a fashion world, fashion domain, sometimes in a fashion show we see a dress or clothes that is very difficult or like to use. You will think like, okay, if people won't want to wear that, they will have like need like 5 people to help them, and it will take like an hour to get dressed. Who would want to use that kind of dress, for example? But it doesn't matter because this is still a brainstorming style. Those introduced are still prototype. The end product may look different, may look entirely different, and that's fine. All right. What matters here is quantity, the quantity of ideas, not the quality. So we don't judge, we defer judgment here, as it says here, and we welcome far-fetched ideas. It's out of the box, as out as possible. It's fine. Okay, we just list them and see how it goes. All right, think about this one. Imagine, this is very creative. Alex Tew in 2015 purchased a website that cost him $10 US. Very cheap, right? He simply divided that page into a 1000 times 1000 grid. He sold 1 USD per pixel, minimum of 10 times grid. So depends on the grid or on the icon or the image that you choose in here. If you choose the small one like this one, this is probably 10 times grid. Okay, so you have to pay $10 if you want to have this link. Okay, why people want to pay for that much? What do you think? This, if you go to this $1 million homepage, this is a famous homepage, and he actually sold all 1 million pixels under a year. It means this guy had $1 million in a year only to create this. Heck, you don't have to finish this degree. You can do this now. It's easy, right? You can just arrange this one. And there are many tools to help you doing this. And you get $1 million. Very easy. The biggest thing why this works, because this guy is a genius in creativity. Okay, nobody think about this one before. I didn't think about this one before, and it actually works. He had $1 million. This is real. You can go here, and the price is real, and he actually earned this much. I don't know how much he earned by now. Maybe this works only once, and maybe people then will have the same ideas because it is very easy to replicate. But it doesn't matter. He already had $1 million. Okay, I'm sure he's happy. Now, with brainstorming technique, we still need to know several techniques. Okay, there are several techniques that we can use, including mind mapping, brainwriting. It's not like we write to brain, it's simply how to document what people think in their brain. Okay, how to capture the richness and the creativity of a person. We can also use something called figure storming or round robin. Round robin is simply how we ask people for that idea. So it can be like start with one person and other team should respond. This is mind mapping. I'm sure you are all aware about this mind mapping. Basically, we try to put all topics in here, and then we try to relate them so that we can have relationship between topics in here. And this may be the core topics, and this from this core topics, it can goes to many other topics. Now, this is an example of brainwriting worksheet. As I mentioned before, the brainstorming techniques include mind mapping, brainwriting, and so on. So this is an example of the brainwriting worksheet where they have many rounds, and in here, in these rounds, we like details ideas further. So for example, in round one, the idea one is to redesign the icon to make it easier to find. Okay, round two, these ideas become make the new icon looks like a bus. Okay, that on the third round, ensure that some parts of all the app can work out without the internet. All of this seems random, right? That's why it's called brainstorming. It's a storm, it's mess. Okay, it's not the end product, and it's fine. Now, after we have all the ideas gathered, okay, we need to do conceptualizing the ideas. All design is redesigned. There is no such brand new design. Okay, the current design basically make things simpler, make things better, prettier, or on the other hand, make things more complicated. I don't know. Depends on the requirement, on the objective. Okay, but basically, there's always what's called starting line that is not really from scratch. There's always previous design that we can use as our starting point, so we can make it better instead of starting from scratch. Now, several problems with designing for solution is perspective, and that's why we need to do what we have in the first part of this course. We need to ask other people perspective, because if we only think the design by ourselves, that is from our perspective. Different people obviously have different perspective, and therefore different people often expect different design solution. Okay, now which one to use? Well, we also need to prioritize the idea. Which one to use? We may need to ask a bigger population. We need to ask more people, and then we may then want to vote which one to use. Okay, there are many things that we can do to decide, but whatever you do, don't think of a design by yourself. You should ask other people what's their idea, what's their opinion about our design, and so on. Now, one of the jargon in design is we need to make things explicit. Okay, never accept things as it is. Question every assumption in our thoughts. For example, I may have used that example before. In button for save, we still use this. Okay, because older generation who create that design use this to save their work. People these days don't use this. So even though we assume everyone knows what this is, Well, we need to challenge that information because many people these days have no idea what a disk is. Okay, that's assumption. We never really prove that. That's our assumptions. Several points in here that we want to discuss is that we need to focus on the problem, consider the problems and connection between problems, unified visions. So we need to first agree on what is the problem that we want to solve. What is the problem that we want to solve? For example, there's a student just now, I think last week, asking for a topic for his thesis. He said, I want to help people. I want to help people understanding. He said, yeah, the problem in here, the problem with social media is that there are so many hoax, so many hoax, false news, okay, clickbaits, and so on. So many hoax. So he wants to help the community so that many people don't fall into hoax. Okay, what do you think is the problem? What the problem you want to solve? You want to educate the people, or you want to somehow label an article, whether that article is a hoax or not. Okay, those are two different things. Now, which one we need to focus? Which one you want to solve? That should be agreed, or everyone should be on the same page on what the problem they want to solve. The last one, enhance creativity. There is no bound for creativity. Okay, so you don't think like the whole thing, you don't think too far, because there's no end to creativity, because you can go on and on and on to design and design, make a better design, and so on. So instead of thinking everything, try to think incrementally. Instead, okay, one step at a time, think of this one first, and then think of something, the next step, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, you will end up designing all the time. This is activity analysis that includes the following questions. The following questions. We should ask, what are the steps or procedures? What are the artifacts? What are the goals? And what are the pain points? Let's talk about this in details now. So, for example, steps of analysis. In here, there's what are the steps? We need to ask, okay, what people need to accomplish an objective. For example, let's say the sample objective in here is doing online learning. Okay, sometimes we say this, okay, just ask the students to do online learning without even thinking what the students do so that they can do online learning. All right, we actually need to consider this one. So in this example, what are the steps? What are the things that the students need to prepare? First of all, I think all of you will need to prepare internet package. You will need to have internet connection, right? Second, you need to know the schedule when the online class will be held and how. For example, will it be on Hangouts, Zoom, or what? Once you know the tools required, you need to install that tools. And then you need to run that tools and then connect to the internet. Only then you can learn online. So sometimes things are not as simple as it seems initially. All right. Now, artifacts. Artifacts include tools, equipment, software, or whatever needed for a user to perform an activity. So if before are the steps required to do the goals, to get the goals, these are the artifacts. For online learning, this includes computer, can be a laptop or a personal computer. You can use a mobile phone, tablets, whatever. Okay, but if you want to present, you also need a webcam or a web video conference software such as Zoom, Meet, WebEx, and Teams. Okay, you will need the internet. Internet is also the artifacts. Okay, getting the internet package is the steps. Internet is an artifact. Okay, that is needed for a student to do online learning, and so on. What are the goals? Okay, in here we need to focus on the user goal, not the designer goals. Okay, because the objective is guided by, the objective is guiding the design. The design should follow the objective. The user objective can be defined from broad to narrow objectives. For example, broad objective is students able to access online education. That's it. A narrower objective, for example, can be students able to access online education easily. A more narrow, a more specific is students able to access online education easily and efficiently. That is more specific goals. Okay, so we first define what's the broad goals, what's the ultimate goals, and then we can go to get more details on that goals. Now, last point that we need to think about is the pain points. What is the user problems? Okay, maybe selected tools consume too many bandwidth. Some students have poor internet connections, tools are too complicated to operate, tools are expensive, and so on and so on. Okay, so this is problems or bad user experience at any point in time when people are using our solution. As you can see here, our solution is not necessarily a product. It can be a method or a system. Okay. Now, based on these 4 points, what we actually design? We actually define the artifacts, the things that people need to aim to get the goals with less pain, of course. Okay. Now, what makes a good design? What is a good design? A good design is using usable interface, of course. People should be able to use it. The workflow is familiar. If people are not familiar with the workflow, they will get confused. Okay, support user learning styles. What does it mean? It means it support users, new entry users or a beginner user or advanced user. Advanced users can you do this better, and the beginner should have no problem with operating the application. Okay, and also with learning styles, we should provide helps or tutorial to support the application. But for advanced user, they should be allowed to skip the tutorial, for example. Okay, as I mentioned, basically support using learning styles is making sure that our application is can be operated by beginner user or advanced users comfortably. Suitable for user environment, so should works as is intended, consistent. We cannot just change the interface like every time the user open the application. That is confusing. And lastly, using metaphor that is familiar to the users. We will talk about interface metaphors after this. Okay, so we need to consider this when we want to create a design. Interface metaphors, what are those? Basically, it's a collection of UIs, actions, or activities that are common to the users. Commonly, this interface refers to the real-world artifacts. Okay, Why? Because that helps people to understand how to interact with that UI. For example, a button for shopping cart is often labeled as the shopping cart for a grocery store. Most people will know, okay, this is a shopping cart. Even though they don't put shopping cart label, they know, okay, this is shopping cart. If I click this one, it means I want to know what's in my shopping cart already. If I want to remove something, I put it in a garbage bin, and this is a garbage bin. Okay, most people will may be familiar with this one, so they know, okay, this is a garbage bin. If I put an X, means I don't agree with it, I want to remove it, I want to delete it, and so on. If I put a tick, it means it's correct, it's okay, and so on. Those are interface metaphors that reflects the real world. This is another example, like digital readers such as Google Play Books, Amazon Kindle, Apple Book, and so on. They usually have page animation when people transition to other page. They make it look like it's really flipping. They don't really have to do that, right? But it looks nicer because, again, people usually more familiar with these activities. This is what happened when people flipping pages in a real book, using real books, right? So they want to mimic or they want to replicate a similar interface in their reading application. All right, and that's all for today. Any question before we go to quiz? All right, so I've been thinking about the quiz, so I'm not changing the marks for quiz, but I'm thinking on bonuses. Okay, so the maximum points for all 3 fun quizzes will still be 30 points. Okay, will still be 30 points for the UTS, for the mid term. But okay, I will give 5 points bonus to the first winner in every round, and 3 points bonus for the second and third winner in every rounds. So if you miss points in some round, then you can get by trying to be the winner, by being the winner of the next round. If you're not the winner, but you answer all correctly, you will have 10 points. Okay, if you don't answer all correctly, then you will have a portion of your correct answer, based on your correct answer, a portion of the 10 points. So each fun quiz, you can have 10 points if you answer all correctly. If you answer half them correctly, then you have 5 points. Okay, so in here, I'm not changing the how much point you can get, but I simply give bonus to the winner in every round. Okay, any question? Maximum 30 points for all 3 fun quizzes. So even if you are the first winner of all 3 rounds, you answer correctly, you cannot get 45 points. So that, okay, Jimmy, I already have 45 points. It means I don't need to do the other assignment. No. That's not how it works. Any question for the quiz? Let's get it done. Hang on. Let me prepare things. Prepare the quiz.